Hello everyone. Welcome everyone. We are here live today. One more slow phone live interview. Today we will interview David Steinmetz from Belgium from the My Life for on Airplane Mode project. So hello David. Also here Sylvia and Melina. Hello everyone.
Hello, guys.
Hello,
Good morning.
nice to
Hello.
meet you.
So, David, welcome. Let's start asking you how the project starts, how this subject of EMF fields or safe technology starts in your life. If you can tell us how this everything starts.
Yeah, good. Well, first of all, I really find it nice to have a international interview. I mean, you're. Did you hear me?
Yeah,
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 Okay, because it's written host as muted. Okay, it's fine.
yeah.
I was telling that I was really happy to have this interview because we met Fabiano already in Belgium, and it's great to have kind of similar projects all around the world and also having contact with each other. So thank you for this interview. Um, so yeah, how it started? Well, that's a good question. I think it was about 3, 4 years ago now, or three. We gathered a group of electro hypersensitive people that wanted to change the way electro hypersensitivity was perceived in the media mainly, and to explain electro hypersensitivity with our own narrative. So that was kind of the first intention, because now it's kind of evolving, but at least in Europe 3 years ago, it was really like uh, EHS was more like perceived as something weird and not always, well, I don't know, credible, I would say. And that's really hard because yeah, it's kind of double. Yeah, it was. I mean, of course, we suffer from symptoms, but then also like the perception of society about EHS is kind of doubling the issue, I would say. And so we wanted to work on this, and so we started to gather a team. Then yeah, we were about four. So this was really great, and this team wanted first to make a documentary, to kind of tell them the truth, right? But then we realized, well, um, behaviors are evolving. So people watch smaller videos, and they're not always convinced by information they see. So we were thinking about how can we help people that have those symptoms but don't know or might not know if potentially uh, um, radiation might be the cause of, or at least one of the co-factors of their symptoms. That's the first thing. And then also, how can we convince people with smaller videos on our own? And then, yeah, that's why we started a YouTube channel and started with small videos. And that was all 2, 3 years ago. And yeah, we are kind of busy with making this channel grow, and it kind of works since 2 years now. So yeah, it's a good start.
And how do you think it was the view of EHS in Europe, and now how you see like 4 years later, how you feel today? How is it the best way to call this situation electro hypersensitive, or
Yeah.
do you find new words, new ways to call it?
Well, I do perceive that there is changes. The first one is, well, if you meet people and tell them, "Oh, could you please put your phone shut off or in airplane mode?" Uh, well, 3, 4 years ago, they might be like, "Oh, what's this? Why should I do it?" And now it's more like, "Oh, well, oh, you have it. What's this?" And they're more curious. They don't feel like offended. They're more like, "Oh, I didn't know I would meet one someday." you know. And so that's a big change, because then at least well, we can have a conversation. So that's on a personal level, I would say. But then if we look at Europe as a whole, well, of course it's not recognized in all countries. It is recognized as a handicap in Sweden. That's really a good example. And then also in Netherlands uh, this year, actually. So it's really fresh news. And some other countries kind of recognize it, but not as a handicap like Sweden or the Netherlands do it. But for example, I heard, but I have to check it out again, but it might have been recognized as professional sickness in Germany. And then in Belgium, for example, with smart meters, the state recognizes that for electro-hypersensitive, the smart meter might be not emitting any wave. So I mean, it's not the state, it's the constitutional court, I would say. So there is kind of justice, I mean, yeah, court that decided, that not decided, but kind of recognizes our electro-hypersensitivity, even though it is not officially recognized. But then again, we can ask ourselves, like, does it have to be recognized? Like, all sort of sickness and handicaps and whatever exists, all sort of condition, and the state doesn't have to recognize any of those. I mean, why should EHS be recognized? It shouldn't actually. So, I mean, of course, it would help a lot of electro-hypersensitive persons, but as a matter of fact, legally speaking, it shouldn't be recognized for us to have the same rights, I think. Yeah.
And you yourself, you describe yourself as electro-hypersensitive. What kind of symptoms you realize in yourself nowadays or back then when it starts?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it's a very important one as well. So thank you for asking this one. The first thing I would say is it doesn't concern, it's not only about a very small proportion of population. Symptoms that I will describe actually concern about 5% of population. So 5%, that's a lot. That's one person every 20. So we all know at least one person that has this condition, right? And those 5%, they come from sources from France, from Sweden, from Switzerland, not Sweden. And if you look at international numbers outside of those two countries, it's between maybe 1 and 11 or 13%. It depends on methodology and countries and etc. But so it's not just like 0.00. It's really actually we're talking about a huge part of the population. And now about the symptoms, it might go from kind of brain fog, I would say, like really like I would call it like hangover, but the whole day through and without drinking. That's a good way to picture it, I think. But also like concentration issues, memory issues, also sometimes tinnitus. Then, yeah, it might also swing into really heavy fatigue. To feel like down the whole day. And then sometimes also issues with the heart. So missed heartbeats, or if it's going too fast, but then again, not everyone has all of the symptoms. It should usually start with one of the symptoms and then goes to other symptoms. I forgot to mention insomnia and other sleeping disorders. And so, yeah, I do have an advice for anyone having those symptoms. It is to try out, like, why not just putting the Wi-Fi off for a couple of days and smartphone as well, and see if there is a difference, or go to 1 week in whatever nature with a tent or so, just to see, without antennas around, just to see if the condition goes better, if there is any change when you come back home. And yeah, that's really a good thing to see whether EMF might impact your life.
And David, I have a question. When people discovered a name for his symptoms, they have, well, how do you feel the people accept the fact that they are electrosensitive? How do you feel this?
Well, I think, well, electrohypersensitivity, it's just a way to identify ourselves. It's a way to express that it is a serious condition. But I do think that in most of the cases, the symptom has kind of cofactors, multiple factors, right? And EMF might just be one of those factors in a way that uh, our health condition might be also linked with other topics like chemicals or healthy food or doing sport, and so it is a multiple factor issue. And um, uh, so yeah, electrohypersensitivity is something I put here just to make it more visible. But as a matter of fact, I think we should aim for like electromagnetic hygiene, the same way we aim for. I mean, we take a shower at least 2-3 times a week, or maybe whatever. But no one tells you, oh, you should take a shower. That's just something we do, right? Or brush our teeth, or eat some healthy food, or at least fruits and vegetables. No one's telling us every morning, oh, did you eat your apple? No, it is something which we consider as a reflex, something that's a habit, right? And I think we should aim for the same with electrohypersensitivity. To avoid exposure, we try to avoid exposure to chemicals and smoke and whatever, and we should try to avoid exposure to EMF as well. And then, yeah, it's like respecting the precautionary principle will help us all to go through a healthy life. But now, so the electrohypersensitivity identity is something I had a really hard time with. So when I discovered that my symptoms were heavily related to my Wi-Fi box, I couldn't believe myself. I couldn't believe my own perception about it. It took me months. I had to go to my doctor. My doctor told me, "Oh, I never heard about this." So I came back home and then put the Wi-Fi on again. And then I had heavy symptoms, and I was like, "Well, my doctor told me she never heard about it. So how come I have those symptoms now? And how come?" And then, yeah, I had to download some scientific paper, tell the doctor, and show her and tell her, "Okay, now look at this." And then she kind of understood there might be something because scientific evidence was there. It's just that she'd never heard about it before. And so, yeah, I was lucky because not everyone has kind of open-minded doctor like this. But then again, it helped me with, okay, kind of self-confidence. I understood it wasn't just in my head. It's also like there is evidence, and it's just not plainly shared to all the people that should know about this evidence. And yeah, so that's also why we started doing videos, actually, because lots of people have lots of symptoms, and there might be a good part of those people that might help. It might help those people to have to look into EMF and see whether or not EMF could positively influence their symptoms or not. And actually, it's free. It doesn't have any side effects. It just asks a bit of time and curiosity, and we can all see whether or not EMF impacts our health. So it's a good thing to, especially for people having symptoms. And it might be in the list I told you, but maybe outside of this list, there is all other symptoms that I just cited, the most recurring one, and just see whether or not EMF can make a difference. So that's really an open invitation to anyone looking at this video.
David, you realize that people have different symptoms from different frequencies. Let's say some people are have more symptoms with Bluetooth, other people Wi-Fi, other like low frequencies as electricity, dirty electricity. Have
Sure.
you done some observations on this?
So I'm more into the technique part. So I'm more into measuring, etc. So I know there is a really, I know where to look for scientific evidence about which symptoms, etc. But I feel there is also people that have very personal symptoms, and it's sometimes hard to kind of have one fits all way to describe, oh, this frequency is exactly this symptom. So there is also it's multiple factor. There is different factors involved, and as such, I wouldn't dive into describing this frequency involves this symptom, and it also depends on the frequency. I mean, the exposure time, but also yeah, the intensity. It depends on maybe personal factors. I don't know. We are not all equal against this exposure, I think. And yeah, so that I won't dive into this, but I can express the fact that we looked for in our videos, we looked into different symptoms, and if you have one, it might be good to take a look at the video itself. So I might show you around if you want to.
Yeah.
I would like also to share my experience, because you said some things that were very interesting. Sometimes we just don't know we have EHS, right? We just feel bad and we don't know the real reason. And well, I was lucky enough to read a little bit. I watched a video on YouTube that said that it could be something coming from the Wi-Fi or the cell phone. So I did exactly what you said. I made an experiment. I did not sleep with my cell phone next to my head, which I did for more than 10 years in my life. And the day I did that, the following day, I felt much better. I had lots of fatigue and headache. It was like something magical. I can't explain. It was like lifting out a problem. Of course, I was not completely cured, but it was since that day. It was about I don't know, 3 years ago. I don't sleep anymore with my cell phone inside the room, and I feel much better. So I think it's an experience that is worth doing, as you said.
Wow.
And I would also like to ask, is there any policies in your country for Wi-Fi at schools or in places? Is there any restrictions?
So thanks for your testimony. That's really great. So for your question, not really. So that's something we're trying to work on. But that's also that's really an issue, because kids they're exposed heavily at early ages, and yeah, it is not a good idea to give them extra exposure. So that's something we really try to change as well. And yeah, we might have more interviews about this matter, because there are a lot of studies that show that there is impact on the way we learn if we learn it through a screen or through a normal textbook or pen and paper. And then yeah, it's kind of interesting to dive into how it evolves. I mean, is it like because of the screen? Is it because of the EMF? But apparently the use of the screen, I'm not even talking about EMF, the use of the screen already has an impact on the way we learn, and also depletes our concentration. So if kids go before school, look at TV, they might have less concentration capabilities to learn at school afterwards. So those are studies that I looked into, and I was like, wow, this is impressive, right?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So there are some changes in France regarding the screen time for kids, but I didn't dive into it. And yeah, I know some countries also asked for smartphones to be banned at school, which is, I think, a very good initiative, but not in Belgium yet.
Yeah, here in Brazil, I think Fabiano told you, we also have no policies for that. And it's just growing. They're using more and more technology. And I believe, as you said, the kids are learning less and less.
Yeah. But I was talking to this morning in an interview that I did here that the subject of like screen addiction or internet addiction is well more accepted in Brazil than EMF fields.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about internet addiction, everybody agrees that is not good for, I think, almost 100%. It's really incredible because 3 or 4 years ago, as people, oh, my kid needs to be technological, my kid needs to have screens, but now it's in Brazil is like the second in the world in screen time. It's like 9 hours and 13 minutes a day.
Oof.
So it's insane. But when we talk about EMF fields, people a little bit skeptical. Say, no, is it really this is not good? And some people say, oh yeah, maybe it's not so consensus. I don't know how it's in Belgium.
Yeah, it's the same, and that's why a lot of NGOs are also, I mean, that usually talk about EMF, also now talk about impact of the use of screens, because indeed that's something people kind of agree, and even more parents, they see that since they are kind of smart school, their kids are with a screen in their hands, a tablet or computer, the whole day through at school, but also to work at home. But when the parents are not looking, people are playing sometimes. I mean, kids are playing sometimes on their screen as well. So it's really an issue, because then they stay on the screen the whole day around. And well, as what I can observe is there is not really, it hasn't been really proved that screens in education are really way better than without any screen. So it is a bit the same with a lot of other technologies and chemical and whatever that are introduced. They're first introduced, and then we study how it impacts our life, and it should have been the other way around, to make sure that we have like I mean, there are some very few application on the way we write, for example, or geometry, where the use of screens have clearly proven a plus. Like the way to see how geometry is evolving when you change some parameters for triangles, or I don't know. This has clearly been proven, apparently, that the use of screen is better for the learning of kids. But most of the applications have not been really proven to be superior to just plain paper and pen, And so, that's an issue, because then we make some heavy changes in the habits of kids, and we're not sure at all that's really for the best. We actually, studies are kind of tends to prove the opposite, as I observe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, David, here in Brazil, the people doesn't agree, don't believe that internet could be dangerous, because it helps a lot, but it could be dangerous, and we need to have more have in mind that it's can turn ourselves sad. But I would like to know what were the most common things you used to do that you realized that caused you more symptoms that you stopped to do it when you realized it, all of this?
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's an interesting one. The first thing is, usually people ask me, how do you do without internet? And then I tell them, well, I do have internet. The thing is, I don't have Wi-Fi. That's a big difference. So I have a cable. I have a cable for internet, and I just, under the router, I just shut off the Wi-Fi, but use internet through the cable at the back of the router. So I do have internet. I do have all commodities available on whatever application people are usually available on, be it WhatsApp or whatever. And then, yeah, people tell me, oh, how do you do without a phone? And then I tell them, well, I have a phone. The difference is I have internet through a cable. That's the thing. And then, yeah, of course, what changes actually is now I choose when I want to be connected. And that's something I did not realize before realizing I had symptoms with all the wireless technology. That's really important. I didn't realize how dependent I was on my smartphone, on my computer, on social media, on whatever stuff that's happening on those screens. And actually, when I dive into numbers, I realize lots of people first thing in the morning, they start looking at their phone even before, I don't know, telling hello to the loved one, or even going before going to the toilet, or just start a day with like a bit of meditation, or no, first thing in the morning, the screen. And last thing in the morning, last thing in the evening, same thing, the screen. And I was the same. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe 8-9 people out of 10, I did this as well. And now I realized how heavily it impacted my life. I wouldn't say that now everything is really nice, etc. Because, well, of course, it's not always easy to live with symptoms in a city, or even outside. But nonetheless, it really helps to get my life back off screens. And now I choose when I want to be connected. I choose when I want to go online, check my emails, check social media. And I know I'm not heavily disturbed with kling, klang, klung, whatever that might occur with screens around me. And that's honestly a huge difference. And you don't have to express symptoms to make that change. I had no choice to make that change. I was happy to have made it, but you can do it even without symptoms, and I invite you to do so.
Yeah, I realized the problem starts when the internet comes to our hand. I come from a generation that we had the internet in the houses, but when you are in the street, you don't have internet. When I go walk the street, I don't have internet. I need to go to my house to use the internet. So I think it was around the year 2008. I don't know exactly in what country, maybe different, but start the internet in the cell phones, because in the beginning the cell phone is just for calling and SMS. So I think that's the point started the biggest problem. That's why there's some movement to don't give children smartphone before 14. And that's a very nice movement. It's based on scientific studies and neuro development studies.
Yeah.
And you can these movements say that you can give a regular phone to your children, like a calling and SMS phone, but don't give a smartphone to your kid before 14. So that's very interesting.
I saw a study that told, like, for children aged 12 or 13, I don't remember if it was in France or Belgium, but the numbers are quite staggering. How many percent of those kids from 12, 13 years do have a cell phone today? I mean, in 2024, how many percent?
How many percent?
99%. 98.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, because I have my daughter's 12, but she does not have a cell phone.
Well, she's one person. She would have been the one person here. But can you imagine this? Virtually everyone has a cell phone, and the way I see it, it might be an issue for our future, because, well, it's my personal opinion, but when we talk to screens, we don't talk to each other. And we kind of lose the habit to engage a conversation in public transportation. I mean, it might not be only linked to cell phones or screens or AirPods or whatever, but I think smartphone have their responsibility in this. When I look around in the metro or in public transportation as a whole, well, most of people, they're just they're with the screen like this, and they're not talking to each other. They're not listening. And if you talk to them, they're like, "Oh, why do you talk to me?" It's really, it's yeah. So I'm only 30, so I don't know what happens, how it happens before, but I kind of have memories of when I was a kid. People were talking in the public transportation. Maybe not with complete strangers, but nonetheless, they had more habits of talking. And what really saddens me is when people are, when you see lovers in a restaurant. So there are both of them in a nice restaurant. It's a nice moment, right? But no, they're both on their cell phone. They're not even looking, or no, they're just both of them are they. Yeah, that's a bit. When I see this, I tell myself, okay, we might have a bit of a role in this too. I mean, as an NGO, My Life in Airplane Mode, kind of make people more aware of this whole situation. So not only about health, but also about how screen impact our life as a whole. And that's also the idea behind My Life in Airplane Mode. It is like to put it in airplane mode and see how nice it is to kind of get back a bit of our mental space, I would say.
Yeah, sanity. There's another term that I like, that's infotoxication. That's is the intoxication of information. You know, a lot of people are feeling that just too much information, and a lot of people are feeling a need for space, for silence, for slowing down. So I would like to.
Well, meditation is a good tool. I mean, now people surf on digital detox. It is kind of trendy here in Europe. There is a whole business model behind this concept, but you don't have to pay or go to special places to to understand how it works. It's just like try to start a day while meditating and try to lessen screens, but also wireless devices. And then I think it might just help with feeling better a bit. Yeah.
Do you want to show the window that you want to see the channel?
So I wanted to show you a bit around the channel. So I'll share the screen. Blah blah blah. Share screen. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. All right. So I see you can see me, so that's good. So here's our website. And it's good to show it because we are 4 in the team and I'm alone today. So yeah, that's the way we want to express our life in airplane mode with coffee in the morning in a nice caravan in nature. It doesn't have to be in a caravan, but anyway. And so those are our episodes. So we started with symptoms, as I expressed, and those videos, they're in French, but they have English subtitles. And if you want Portuguese subtitles, if we find someone to translate them, it might be possible in the future. And so the first video was about burnout. People express heavy fatigue at work or in their daily life. And well, for my case, Wi-Fi heavily impacted my fatigue. And so that was my trigger, I would say. So that's why I made a video about this. And the idea, of course, is people that have burnout, that they check this video and tell themselves why not try at home, shut off the Wi-Fi or fuses, electric fuses, I mean, and see how things are evolving, right? So that's the whole concept behind the episodes. So we made burnout, but also about sleeping issues, about headache, memory issues, and then tinnitus. The tinnitus has had a lot of success. It's really nice to see. And this video here was about a house without EMF at Guy's place. So you met him.
I remember this house.
Yeah. So that's the house, and so he showed around all techniques that has been made to avoid having EMF in the house. It's really nice to look at if you want to change things in your house. And then the last video was actually recorded, last year in June 2023, where we had a huge gathering of electro-hypersensitive people from all over Europe. That was really wonderful. We had 120 people from 8 countries, and 17 partner NGO were participating as well. So that was really something to organize and to see how happy people were to just be there at the gathering without having to ask people to shut down their phone and blah blah blah, and just like feel normal in a normal environment. And some people they came out of like seclusion for years, 10 even 20 years I heard, and it was the only vacation they could afford because there is no EMF at all. And so that was really something really touching. And so we made a little after movie about this world gathering, and it was shared 2-3 weeks ago. And actually we'll have a next gathering in Germany in end of June. And so anyone's in Europe and listening to this video, you may go to the website of ESC. I'll show you the website. We might also put the link in the description afterwards. And so there is the conference gathering here. And we are also involved in the organization, but ESC, Europeans for Safe Connections, is coordinating. So Europeans for Safe Connections is the I would call it European Federation of NGOs that want to work on EMF on a European level. So that's really a nice place to be, and we have to register before the 10th of June. So it's really now we should consider it if anyone's watching and willing to go there. I really highly recommend it. And you may also look at the video here to see how it was last year and feel a bit the vibe about the whole situation. So those were the episodes, and we actually started like 2-3 years ago with episodes about symptoms, and then we also published the conference of the gathering, the EHS gathering. So what you see here are videos in French, but also in English, about 5G, about 5G Commission in New Hampshire, or European news, some presentation of EHS NGOs, the presentation of Europeans for Safe Connections by Rob van der Boom, and then the Stop 5G European Citizens Initiative as well. And you see there was a lot of different videos, some in English, some in French, but so we also have English videos actually. And then to show you around, we also have newsletters and social media, as you can see on the website. And we publish like newsletter every couple of months, kind of. So we don't spam too much. We try to have like one newsletter every once in a while. And then we have the same. We also have of course a YouTube channel with our gathering here presented as first, the episode I just showed you, and then the conferences. But we also have a playlist with all the English videos. So if you don't want to read English subtitles and you prefer to have English, native English videos, well, you may look at the conferences from last year that we published afterwards. And we will also publish the conferences for this year European gathering. So that's really a good thing to do. So that's our current way of that's where we are.
Let me read some questions here. Ana Paula said, good to know about this little change in society around you, the acceptance in the turning airplane mode. And she said, I agree about the personal health could maximize the electrohypersensitivity, the electrosensibility. Yeah, you talk about that, right?
Yeah, we talked about it indeed. Yeah. So that there are multiple factors for being healthy, which of course I wish everyone is, and it should be actually. That's a right to be healthy, not just being alive, but having a healthy life. And yeah, that's really a fundamental right. And so yeah, it is something that's linked with multiple factors, and one of them is EMF exposure. But of course, there are other factors as well. So not everything is related to EMF. There are also chemical exposure, whatever, making sports or movements in the day, having personal
Yeah.
hygiene, etc., as we mentioned. Yeah.
Eduardo said, I love the title of the live. And Eduardo, I think he's asking, I'd like to know the device to use the wired smartphones. Can you show again your
yeah.
wired? Maybe you have an adapter, right?
Yeah, I do have an adapter like this.
Let me just put
the one I
it
have on my smartphone is actually a little. It's directly linked. This is directly linked with the computer through a special program that programmers used. So it's not easy to install. And it's actually, you have to code a bit, and yeah, usually unless you have coded a bit already, usually it doesn't work. So what you can do is use this adapter. So this goes in the phone, and then you have here the plug. You put the Ethernet cable in, and then you can just have internet on the smartphone through the wire. So yeah, you have then access to WhatsApp, Signal, and then also Telegram. You don't have access to regular phone if your phone is on airplane mode. But yeah, what I tell people is, oh, you can contact me through WhatsApp or Signal, and usually they have it. Unless they have like a old phone like this. But then yeah, I put my phone out of airplane mode maybe once a day or once every couple of days. I put it far away. It downloads all the messages and missed phone calls, and then I know how to reach people out by email or yeah, through other means without EMF. Yeah.
David, you said you are very focused on also measurements, and I want to listen to you a little bit. This morning we are talking about the SAR. We are doing an interview about this very subject and the phone gate.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult. The SAR is there's a lot of complexities. What do you think is like the future of the measurements? Do you think it can become a little bit more popular? Like I always say about people measure the temperature, people have something to measure the speed of a car.
Yeah.
So the power density, do you think we can just stick with the power density and have more measurements, or the SAR is very important? How you see these two? I think the most important, the two measurements of
so SAR is linked with phones in particular, and other devices that emit. But there is one thing we should really keep in mind, is distance is key. The distance really helps with lowering the exposure. So let's say I have, of course, this phone is here on airplane mode, but let's say I would be calling. Having the phone on the ear is really the worst regarding exposure, because it's really close by the body, and then the intensity is really the highest. Exceptionally, yeah, even more if you're, for example, outside of the city where there is very few antennas and you don't have a good mobile connection. That's when the intensity sent is really the highest. And so what we could everyone can do it, even while keeping a phone and using it without airplane mode, is to having the phone here, right? I mean, like 50 centimeters of distance and calling like this, because actually the distance helps a lot. There is a correlation, the correlation between distance and exposure is the square. So to say that if you have 2 times more distance, you have 4 times less exposure. You see, and so when you take, I don't have here one, but I have, of course, lots over there. When you take the meter, you realize that the phone, if it's kept really close by, it goes really high, and then if you take a bit of distance already, then directly it goes already down a lot, right? So for anyone that's not EHS and don't want to shut off the phone the whole day around, what you can do is at least, well, have some distance when you call and put the headphone. I mean the
Earphone. Earphone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
No,
having the volume more out. Yeah.
yeah, speaker mode, I think.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's really one of the key advices. And so, as I understood from PhoneGate, not all SER that are the numbers are not always reliable. So I wouldn't really dive into SER comparison. I would more dive into how can I change my behavior. And of course, avoid AirPods, wireless AirPods. Please use one with a cable like this, right? With a regular cable like before. Because AirPods, it is kind of comparable intensity of exposure than having the phone on the ear. So people are like, oh, well, I do have the phone here, but I have earplugs, so it's okay. Well, no, it's quite the opposite. And what's really saddens me is usually people also have those buds for listening to music for hours, and then they don't really realize how it might impact their life regarding their own health. So yeah, when I look at scientific studies, we see that it might have an impact, a correlation with some sort of cancer if there is really a heavy use. I mean, not only AirPods, but also phone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There are 2 questions here. If you know some schools in Europe without Wi-Fi, and also if there's hotels or places that have seals or certifications showing that the zones are without Wi-Fi or where the cell phones are prohibited, if you know something about it.
Those are very good questions. So schools in Europe without Wi-Fi, yes, there are, but very few. These are usually private schools. Yeah, so public schooling is quite into, for now, quite into the Wi-Fi stuff and screens. But since I don't have kids, honestly, I didn't look into schools around my neighborhood that could be EMF free, I would say. But I know from other people that's really quite a challenge, honestly. So next question, hotels or places that have seals showing, yeah. Well, there are some certificates that are trying to be spread, but they're not widely used. So there are kind of people that do it because they know it's a danger, but it's not like, I don't know, when you buy something, well, I don't know, it isn't, if you go on a website for a hotel booking, there is no label or whatsoever that pops up regarding this. It is not something people usually look at yet. We'll see in the coming years. But for now, it isn't the case. Well,
Okay.
what I do see is some people that sell houses, well, company that sell houses, when they see that it is in complete white zone, some of them understand they could try to sell them to EHS people, but it is something that's starting. So the value of having no antennas around is little by little understood by some of those companies. Yeah, that's indeed a change.
What's considered a white zone? It's below how much, or there's no specific.
I would say it's when you have no connection at all with the phone. But in practice, you seldomly see those complete white zone. Usually, there are still a bit of connection nonetheless. Exceptionally in Belgium, because it's a small country, and we have a high population density, so we have antennas a bit in every side of the country. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Thank you, Melina. I ask you guys to give your final message to we end this interview. Can we start with Sylvia, your final message? Then.
Okay. Thank you very much, David. It was very interesting and inspiring. I think we have to talk about electrohypersensitivity as much as possible, because lots of people have it and they have no idea why they have those symptoms, and the doctors are completely lost. And well, I would say that I would just like to give, how can I say, a hint that helped me a lot. I already talked about it, but I think if people are watching, don't sleep with your cell phone inside your bedroom, okay? Because even if you're not electrohypersensitive, it's not good for your health. And thank you very much, David.
Melina, your message final.
Yeah, thank you, David, and for the explanation all you said. And I hope the world have changed a good change in a few years. And we really need this change. The people understand that the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth and something like that could be dangerous for us, and we can do a lot of things mainly inside our homes. Inside our homes, we stay there the most time of our lives, and we need to have this kind of care with ourselves. And thank you for this work, and you can count with me. Slow phone, we always can count with me. Thank you.
Thank you. And you, David, your final message?
Well, thanks for the interview. I really like it because when I met you, Fabiano, in Belgium, I realized we kind of came to the same conclusions. So our projects are a bit different, but at the same time, it is also about phones and slow phone, airplane mode. Like it kind of. So it's funny to see how we kind of got in the same direction, even though we are literally quarter of the world apart. Like in different continents. And so yeah. It was nice to meet you, and then also thank you for this interview to the three of you. So a final message, I would say, of course, if you have those symptoms I expressed, so brain fog, concentration issues, memory issues, tinnitus, or even depression sometimes, because it can also affect the endocrine system, but also like sometimes issues with the heart, or sleeping disorders. If you have some of them or even a bit, please try it out. Try to shut off the Wi-Fi. Try to shut down the fuses at night, except for the fridge, of course. Try to go for a week outside of EMF in nature and see if your body reacts better or not. Not just for 1 hour, but for some days, like 1, 2, 3. The best is 1 week, but at least 2 or 3 days. And if you have a device to measure EMF, that's even better. So because we cannot see it, so it's important to have a device, because maybe your neighbor right next to the wall, he has a Wi-Fi box, and if you don't know about it, if you don't measure it, you might never know. So if you want to have that test in an accurate way, it could be a good thing to I don't know, ask her friends to lend it out, or I mean, you don't have to buy it. If it's just for a week, try to find someone to lend it out. It's a good start point. And then, yeah, I'd like to send a message to all people that have those symptoms and have made the link with EMF. Don't lose hope. We are all trying to get things changing, and that's really nice. In Europe, with Europeans for Safe Connections, there is really a nice dynamic going on with how to get our message across different countries, etc. Because we have all the same challenges in all Europe and in all of the world, actually. So it's good to have this, this European dynamic going on. So yeah, I look forward to the future, because I know 5G is ongoing and 6G and blah blah blah, and it might pour down on us. But at the same time, I think the awareness is raising as well, and so there might be also like hope if coming into the foreseeable future. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much, David. I found My Life in Airplane Mode so inspiring. This name, I realized I try to live my life in airplane mode, and I think it's really important, this project, for the world and to people to trust in their feelings, like you said. And so here's the website, Ma Vie en Mode Avion, is My Life in Airplane Mode in French.
Yeah.
And again, remember the invitation for the meeting the end of this month in Germany.
Yeah, for those in Europe. Or if you want to take a plane, that's fine as well.
Everywhere in the world. And here's the website of slowphone.org. And here's our Telegram news in English, Slow Phone Global. And thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.